Namaskar, this is Firstpost. You're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. This week, Russian President Vladimir Putin is visiting India for the first time in 4 years. We'll tell you what's on the table, a defense pact and new weapons, and why it's a win-win for both sides. Also in focus, a bizarre twist from West Asia. Israel dropped an American bomb on the Hezbollah in Lebanon. It did not explode. Now America wants the bomb back. We'll tell you why. How China is flashing warning signs with corruption inside the PLA and a struggling economy. How clean air has become a fantasy in India. In Delhi, headlines say the air quality has, and I'm quoting, the air quality has improved to poor. Across Asia, climate change is taking lives with cyclones triggering floods and landslides. The death toll has crossed 1,100. In Hong Kong, you can't ask why the fire killed 151 people. China is slapping sedition charges on those who express anger. How Airbus was hit by twin setbacks over the weekend with shares plunging by 10%. What is rage bait, the Oxford word of the year? And what are Indians eating? A new survey says global flavors with a lot of ordering in. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. In India, the winter session of Parliament begins amid chaos. There was ruckus in both houses over the Special Intensive Revision or SIR of electoral rolls. The opposition walked out of the Rajya Sabha, which is the upper house of Parliament. Prime Minister Modi has urged lawmakers not to turn this session into a stage for theatrics. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visits Paris. He held talks with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron. Both leaders also spoke with Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff. Ukraine is weighing its options over a truce plan proposed by the United States. But Europe fears that it risks caving in to Russian demands. Iran announces the discovery of a major gold deposit. It was found at one of the country's biggest mines for the precious metal. Tehran has never disclosed the amount of national gold reserves, but boosting it would strengthen Iran's economy as it reels under global sanctions. Singapore will impose a stricter ban on smartphones and smartwatches in secondary schools. This will be implemented from January. Currently, students are only barred from using their devices in classrooms. Singapore has one of the world's most digitally connected populations. And South Africa, Eswatini and Zambia begin administering a new HIV prevention injection. The drug has shown that it can reduce the risk of transmission by more than 99%. This is the drug's first public rollout in Africa. South Africa has the world's highest HIV population. The countdown has begun. In 3 days from now, Vladimir Putin will arrive in New Delhi. It will be his first visit to India in 4 years, also the first since the war in Ukraine began. So the stakes are high. Major announcements are expected. Both sides are keen to make it a successful visit, and we at Firstpost will be covering it extensively for you. We'll be looking at all aspects of the India-Russia relationship, the strengths, the challenges and the opportunities, and we'll begin with the defense ties. This has been a key pillar of the bilateral relationship. The defense ties. And tonight we have two major developments to report on that front. One is from Russia and one is from India. Let's start with Russia. They want to move beyond the usual arms deals. Right now it's a fairly straight equation. India buys weapons, Russia sells weapons. But now they're looking for something deeper. A defense partnership where both militaries support each other on the ground. That could mean sharing military bases or allowing ships and aircraft to refuel or restocking supplies and getting repairs done. Russia wants all of this with India. It is ready to approve a defense pact that achieves all these goals. In fact, this pact was signed back in February this year. The only thing left is for it to be ratified by Russia's lower house, that's the State Duma. The agreement is called RELOS, the Reciprocal Exchange of Logistics Agreement. This pact would facilitate a closer defense relationship for military exercises, for disaster relief operations, and also for peacetime operations. So how does it help India? It would mean working closely with Russia in regions like the Arctic. And this is important. Remember, India wants to produce more energy from this region, from the Arctic. India wants to procure, rather, more energy from this region. In 2021, India got LNG from the Russian Arctic. And if military coordination improves, it could facilitate more energy trade for India. And what's in it for Russia? Well, this deal could open doors for them in the Indian Ocean. Russia could use Indian facilities and project power with ships and submarines. China has been active in the Indian Ocean. Chinese warships have become a regular presence, and they're expanding their footprint with more patrols, more ports, and more pressure. So Russia does not want to be left behind. It has been actively participating in joint naval drills, many of them with India. And it works for India too, because New Delhi sees Moscow as a steady partner, a partner who can quietly help balance China and keep other foreign navies in check. So like I said, this pact will be a win-win, and Russia is pushing for it. So that's the update from the Russian side. Now let's tell you about what India is looking at. New Delhi has its own plans for the Putin summit, and they're bold. Reports say India wants to reopen talks on major military deals. The focus is on two key systems, the Su-57 and the S-500. The Su-57, as you would know, is a Russian fighter jet. It's a fifth-generation combat aircraft. It is stealthy, fast, and cutting-edge, equipped with long-range radar and missiles. India already flies more than 200 Russian jets, mostly the MiG-29 and the Sukhoi Su-30 MKI. Now it wants a fifth-generation fighter. And since Indian pilots and engineers know the Russian systems well, the Su-57 is being actively considered. That's the first system. The second system on the table is the S-500. This is an advanced air defense system. It's a step up from the S-400 system. And the S-400, as you would remember, played a crucial role in Operation Sindoor. It took down Pakistani drones and missiles. The S-500 would be an upgrade for the Indian forces. Think of it like a dome of protection, one that can shoot down incoming missiles or enemy aircraft. It can hit targets at even longer ranges and higher altitudes. So to put it simply, it gives India more reach and more control over its airspace, the S-500. So New Delhi is looking to buy these systems. Having said that, no military deals are expected to be signed during Putin's visit. The discussions that happened this week would be more like a statement of intent. Nonetheless, they send an important signal: a logistics pact and a military deal with Russia at a time when India is diversifying its weapons purchases. We're buying from other partners as well. Consider what India's Defense Secretary said last week. I'm quoting: India's defense cooperation with Russia is a long-standing one, and the nation does not intend to stop anytime soon. The thing is, India is thinking long-term. It is not walking away from Russia, but it is opening doors to other partners. India is balancing old partners with new ones. And when Putin lands in New Delhi this week, the balancing act will be on full display. If you follow West Asia, you must know this. The region is no stranger to drama. Rockets misfire, leaders issue threats, one side claims victory, the other side denies it. West Asia is full of bizarre tales. But this one truly takes the cake. It features an American bomb that did not explode, and now America wants it back. You can't make this up. Our story began last week that's when Israel carried out a precision strike in Beirut. Beirut is the capital of Lebanon. Israel struck them. And the strike happened here in the southern suburbs of Beirut, a place called Harat Reik. This is a Hezbollah stronghold, and Israel's target was the chief of staff of the Hezbollah, this man. Israel says they killed him. 5 others were also killed in the strike. 28 others were injured. But here's the problem. Israel used one of their favorite American-made weapons, the GBU-39B small diameter bomb. Except one of these bombs did not do what bombs are supposed to do. It did not explode. It dropped without detonating. So an unexploded, fully intact, highly sensitive US glide bomb is lying in Hezbollah territory. It's like you can hear Washington panicking. So they did what the US does. They asked for it back. Imagine that. Your ally bombs another country, the bomb does not explode, and what do? You ask for that bomb back, like it's an Amazon package delivered to the wrong address. And why do the Americans want it back? Because they fear that it could fall into the hands of their enemies, aka Iran, China, and even Russia. But there's a reason why the Americans care so much about this one. The GBU-39B is one of America's favorite smart bombs. It was developed by Boeing. They have produced around 20,000 of these bombs, and the US has given a lot of them to allies like Israel. Each bomb weighs around 113 kilos. It deploys wings like a mini aircraft. It travels more than 110 kilometers without an engine, strikes targets with a 1-meter accuracy, and punches through concrete. It can be carried in packs of 4 instead of as one huge bomb. It fits inside the F-35 and F-22 weapons bay. In short, this is a small, cheap, deadly, and smart bomb. Now, glide bombs may not be rare anymore, but the efficient warhead on this one sets it apart. And that advanced guidance system is what makes it so special. That's what Washington is so worked up about. It fears that if the bomb keeps lying there, it can be reverse engineered. The Russians or the Chinese could do it. Even if they reverse engineer a small part of it, the US could be at a disadvantage because this is a product of decades of defense innovation. It is crucial to Washington's lead in precision bombing. Think of it this way. It's like leaving the new iPhone prototype in a bar. Also, this is not the first time that this is happening to the United States of America. It has raced to recover its own technology in the past too. In 2022, the US scrambled ships to retrieve an F-35C. It fell into the South China Sea. The Americans rushed before Beijing could get to it. In 2001, a US EP-3 spy plane landed in Hainan after a collision. The Chinese kept the plane and they stripped it clean. That's what Washington wants to avoid this time. So here's the million-dollar question. Where is the bomb now? Lebanese officials won't say. The Hezbollah is quiet, and so is Israel. And Washington? Well, it's sweating. Maybe the bomb just got lost. Either way, it's hard to ignore the irony here. A bomb fired by Israel lands in Hezbollah neighborhood and triggers the United States, which now wants Lebanon to return it. We don't know if the Americans agreed to pay for the shipping, but this episode tells you one thing about modern warfare. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon is not the one that explodes, but the one that fails. It's the 1st of December and Beijing can't seem to wait for the year to end. It's been a rough year for them. 2025 has been about a struggling economy, a shake-up in the military, and Trump's tariffs. Together, they have tested China's patience and resilience. But from the looks of it, the next year will bring no respite because the Chinese system is still under strain and the pressure is only building. Let's start with the military. China's defense sector is under fire. A new report has just come out and it paints a grim picture for China's biggest military firms. They lost 10% of their revenue in 2024. China's biggest defense firms lost 10% of their revenue in the last year. That's a major drop. And the reason was corruption. This report links corruption within the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, the Chinese army, to the falling defense revenue. It hit several major arms contracts. Many deliveries were delayed and some were cancelled altogether. This could have been an outcome of the sweeping investigations too and the high-level purges in the top brass. These investigations disrupted planning. They slowed down China's military machine. And in comparison, look at how others performed. How much money defense firms made in 2024 elsewhere. In Japan, revenues grew by 40%. In Germany, by 36%. Even in the United States, they posted gains. Revenue went up by 3.8%. But in China, the defense industry lost 10%. That's a steep fall. So perhaps it should not come as a surprise that China turned to information warfare this year. You may remember what happened during Operation Sindoor. China launched a disinformation campaign. It used artificial intelligence, fake accounts, and AI-generated images to discredit India's defenses and to promote Chinese weapons. But the campaign failed. Reports say it did not get any traction. It just betrayed the desperation of China's defense companies, which have lost 10% of their revenue in the past year. That's one crisis they're dealing with. Then we have the Chinese economy. It is flashing red too. There was a major development over the weekend. This is about the data from private real estate deals, specifically the monthly home sales. China has decided to withhold this data, monthly home sales data. They won't publish it. Two major firms publish this data every month. Usually they aggregate data from the top 100 developers and publish it. This is important because home sales are a key metric to assess where the Chinese economy is headed. But now that there's a lot of bad news, China is going after the data. So don't expect home sales numbers for the month of November. Reports say this order came from the government, from the Housing Ministry of China. And look at the timing. Just days after the crisis at Vantage. We told you about it on the show. Vantage is a major developer of China. It is also a state-owned company. And it could be on the brink of default. Last week, Vantage had to repay a loan. And for the first time, it asked for an extension. This was a local bond, meaning the lenders are from China. And the delay was last minute. That's a clear sign of trouble. And this is a state-owned developer we are talking about. Vantage was seen as stable. It was seen as a safe bet in China's real estate market. If this company is under pressure, then it's hard to say who's safe. And this comes as trust in China's official data remains low. So the signals are all stacking up. China's military is facing purges and dealing with falling revenue. And on the economic front, one of their biggest developers is signaling distress. Together, they point to one thing. It's a system under growing strain. For our next story, let me start with a few headlines. You can see them on your screen. Delhi's air quality improves from very poor to poor. Delhi's air quality improves to poor. AQI improves to poor in Delhi. Imagine that. To call poor air an improvement sounds like a cruel joke. But that is life in India's national capital. It's like congratulating someone for going from fail to a D grade. It is still quite bad. But at least you're not breathing air that equals to smoking 10 cigarettes a day. It's only 7 cigarettes now. Talk about small wins. And this is not a new phenomenon. Year after year, Delhi's winter pollution has been described with metaphors: blanket of smog, breath of death, toxic haze, even air apocalypse, which has been a favorite for news channels. But now we are past metaphors. We are past everything at this point, it seems. Because this nightmare is an unrelenting reality. For days, the AQI was at 494. AQI is the air quality index. The ideal reading should be under 100. Delhi has consistently touched almost 500, just shy of the don't even breathe category. The capital's best day was 193, which is still medically unsafe. So the government implemented GRAP. That's the Graded Response Action Plan, GRAP. It's a set of emergency measures to combat air pollution. And we talk about it every year because we follow the same script every year. The smog descends, the politicians argue, GRAP comes into force, and then despite bad air, it is lifted again. A number of reasons are given for the poor air quality, but no solutions and no action. Then the Supreme Court steps in. Every year, the court sounds more frustrated than ever. In fact, look at what Chief Justice Surya Kant said today.
Why don't you make a revisit to your action plan to see for yourself that have you brought any effective changes? And if you have, then are they less than what needed? We think it's important to evaluate has any of your action plan has been proved to be effective or ineffective or less effective.
So the court is asking what all of us are asking. What exactly is the government doing? Because whatever it is doing is not working. And the top court did not mince words. It accused successive governments of relying on hesitance and confidence without any evidence of effective change. Basically, you can't PR your way out of a pollution crisis. You need to fix it. Because this is literally a matter of life and death. And unfortunately, this is not just about the national capital. When it comes to pollution, India's financial capital is not far behind. You see, in the battle of Mumbai versus Delhi, Mumbai always had one thing going for it: clean air. Despite the sky-high rents, despite the grinding traffic, Mumbai residents could at least cheer about clean air because their coastline was a saving grace. Well, not anymore. This time, Mumbai too has joined the Toxic Hall of Fame. It has enforced GRAP 4 measures for the first time ever. This is the highest grade of pollution restrictions, where construction is halted, dust-generating activities are banned, flying squads are deployed, and industries are warned. More than 50 sites have been slapped with shutdown notices. Then we have Pune, where the AQI spiked in the last month. Kolkata, where the reading went from 144 to 417, that's the AQI, 417. On its worst night, Kolkata stood just behind Delhi. To be honest, India has no metro city with good air. There's a new analysis of India's air. It spans a decade from 2015 to 2025, and it says not a single major Indian city recorded safe air in this period. Not one. Not Delhi, not Mumbai, not Chennai, not Kolkata, not Bengaluru, not a single Indian city. Let that sink in. 10 years, 11 major metros, and 0 days of good air. So who is to blame for this? It's very easy to point fingers at external factors. Here in Delhi, we blame the farm fires in neighboring states. The air turns heavy and fingers point towards stubble burning. But here's a fact. This year, farm fires actually decreased dramatically, and yet the smog stayed. Even the Supreme Court pointed it out. It said blaming farmers is too easy and too lazy. Because this is bigger than stubble. This is about cars, construction, waste burning, industries, diesel generators, winter inversion, topography, and sheer governance paralysis. In today's India, you can aspire to own a home. You can aspire to buy a car, you can aspire to switch jobs, but aspiring to breathe clean air, that is too much. A luxury, a privilege, almost a fantasy. And pollution does not just irritate your throat. It shortens your life by 10 to 15 years. That is what science says. You're losing 10 to 15 years. So we can keep blaming farmers, weather, geography, anything, or we can accept the truth. India does not have a pollution problem. India has a policy problem. Anti-smog guns won't save us. Odd even won't save us. 1 week bans won't save us unless the system changes from the ground up. Every winter will be a rerun. Our next story is from Asia, where climate change is claiming lives. More than 1,100 people have died in two major disasters. One is a cyclone called Senyar. It has hit parts of Southeast Asia. It's a rare storm that formed in the Malacca Strait, and within a week it has flooded Indonesia, Thailand and Malaysia. The second disaster is Cyclone Ditwa. It hit South Asia. It formed over the Bay of Bengal, smashed into Sri Lanka, triggered landslides, submerged towns and even cut off power. India too has been hit by this cyclone. The state of Tamil Nadu has been seeing heavy rainfall, and across both regions, the human cost continues to rise. Hundreds of people are missing and millions have been displaced. Here's a report.
Asia is facing two major flood disasters at the same time. One in Southeast Asia and another in South Asia. Two different storms, two separate systems, but already 1,100 lives have been lost. The Southeast Asian disaster was driven by Cyclone Senyar and intense monsoon rain. This rare system formed in the Malacca Strait. It brought destructive floods to Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia over the same week. Indonesia has suffered the heaviest losses. Sumatra saw widespread landslides and sudden flash floods. Rivers burst their banks, roads and bridges collapsed, villages were buried under mud. At least 600 people have died. More than 450 are still missing, and over 575,000 people have been evacuated. The Indonesian military is using helicopters to deliver aid to desperate communities. The government has also deployed warships and hospital ships to the worst-hit coastal regions. Thailand was also struck by the same system. The southern provinces saw severe flooding. Songkhla province recorded a once-in-300-year rainfall. Floodwaters exceeded 8 feet in parts of Hat Yai city. At least 176 people have died. Almost 2.8 million people have been affected. Authorities have airlifted patients from flooded hospitals. Supplies, including oxygen tanks, have been flown to cut off communities struggling to survive. Malaysia too has experienced heavy flooding from the same storm. The northern state of Perlis was hit hardest. Thousands were moved into evacuation centers, and 2 deaths have been confirmed. Meanwhile, a separate storm hit South Asia. Cyclone Ditwa formed over the Bay of Bengal. It made landfall in Sri Lanka last week. It triggered landslides. It submerged entire towns. And it disrupted power and communication lines, leaving thousands in the dark. Sri Lanka's death toll has risen to 355. At least another 366 people are missing. More than 1.1 million people have been affected. Thousands are in shelters. And here, too, the military is using helicopters to drop food, fuel, and medicine to stranded families. Sri Lanka's president says the country faces the most difficult rescue operation in its history.
As a country, we are facing the largest and most challenging natural disaster in our history. We also recognize that what we are undertaking is the most difficult rescue operation in our nation's history. This is the first time the entire country has been struck by such a disaster.
India has stepped in to help its neighbor in crisis. New Delhi launched Operation Sagar Bandhu. India has delivered relief supplies to Sri Lanka. It has also evacuated its stranded citizens from Colombo and nearby regions. Besides, parts of Tamil Nadu have also faced heavy rain linked to Cyclone Ditwa. South Indian cities like Chennai have reported flooding and flight disruptions. Across Asia, rescue teams are still reaching cut-off areas. Hundreds remain missing. Millions are displaced. The immediate crisis is far from over. And for the survivors, the long road to recovery is only just beginning.
Our next story is from Hong Kong. Last week, it suffered a major fire tragedy, the city's worst in almost 8 decades. A massive fire tore through a high-rise apartment complex. Within minutes, 7 towers were engulfed in the blaze. Hundreds of residents ran to save their lives, but many could not make it. As of today, the death toll stands at 151. That's what the police have confirmed. 151 lives lost. More than 40 people are still missing. And recovery crews say that some bodies have turned to ash. The fire has shocked the city, indeed the whole world. It has left families grieving and asking, how did it happen? How did the fire spread so fast? Why were safety warnings ignored? Why did renovation material fail? And who is responsible for this disaster? The people of Hong Kong are asking these questions, and in doing so, they're putting themselves at grave risk because their city is controlled by China. And in China, grief is treated as suspicion. Questions are treated as sedition, and demands for accountability are seen as a threat to the state. Look at what happened in the aftermath of this fire. A student stood outside a train station. He was not shouting, he was not blocking roads, he was not being violent, he was simply handing out flyers. And these flyers asked 4 basic questions, or for 4 basic things: a fair probe, a check on construction failures, resettlement for survivors, and accountability from officials. It's not too much to ask, is it? This petition got 10,000 signatures in less than a day, but by the next day it was gone. The petition was gone and the student was detained. Do you know for what? He was detained for sedition. Believe it or not, asking for accountability after a fire tragedy is sedition in China. And he wasn't the only one who faced this action. 2 more people were detained on the same charge, sedition. A city that has lost more than 150 people to a fire tragedy cannot even ask why. And to make it worse, then came the warning from Beijing. China's national security authorities have issued a statement. They warned people against using the disaster to, quote-unquote, disrupt the city. Here's what they've said.
We sternly warn the anti-China disruptors who attempt to disrupt Hong Kong through disaster. No matter what methods you use, you will certainly be held accountable and strictly punished.
Let that sink in. 151 people killed. And the response is not about fixing safety failures. The response is a warning. Don't ask questions, because if you do, you'll be labeled an anti-China disruptor. I guess that's what makes this tragedy worse, because now it's not just about the deadly fire, it's about the system that silences questions. And it's not like the authorities have not taken action. They have. They've arrested 13 people in this case. These are people linked to the renovation work on the buildings. Officials say substandard material fueled the flames. So they've arrested people. But here's what they don't want. They don't want people discussing the system that allowed this. They don't want the public talking about negligence. They do not want people who say that this tragedy could have been avoided, because in China, the system cannot be questioned, the party cannot be criticized, and anyone who tries faces arrest under national security laws. As shocking as it is not new. China has spent years building a culture of silence. It watches its citizens through cameras and apps. It censors their posts in seconds. It tracks dissent online. It flags what it calls sensitive language automatically. It punishes people for comments that would be normal anywhere else. And the people know this, so they stay quiet. They stay careful. They avoid saying anything that might offend the state, because one sentence can change a life in China. And here's the deeper pattern. Beijing pours enormous money into policing, surveillance, and censorship. It treats internal control as seriously as it treats national defense. In 2020, China's internal security spending hit $210 billion. $210 billion. That was more than their defense budget for the same year. So more money spent on managing the people at home than on defense. This year too, China has increased its public safety budget. That's what they call it. Xi Jinping is spending more and more to watch his people, but he refuses to create space to listen to them. So even in death, you cannot grieve or demand accountability. Because in Xi's China, control always comes before the citizen. Now let's talk about the latest scare in the skies. It happened last week. An Airbus plane dipped mid-flight. This was an Airbus A320. It dipped unexpectedly, and this triggered a global alert. Airbus had to ground many planes. Turns out a solar flare had disrupted the flight system. And then today, they suffered a second blow. A quality flaw was found in the fuselage of the planes. These were undelivered A320 planes. They found a flaw. Needless to say, the deliveries have been delayed and Airbus shares have dropped by 10%. So 2 crises in 2 days. Neither may cause lasting damage for the company, but it serves as a reminder that global aviation still rests on 2 wings, Airbus and Boeing, 2 companies that have a virtual monopoly on commercial aviation. And when one stumbles, there is no fallback option. Here's a report.
It began with a sudden dip. An Airbus A320 lost altitude mid-air. Pilots quickly regained control, but what caused it was something no engineer could have anticipated: a solar flare. Yes, a burst of energy from the sun. It happened far away, but it triggered panic across global aviation. Airbus grounded planes from its A320 fleet. The incident triggered a worldwide advisory. Engineers traced the issue to the flight control computer. The system had received corrupted signals. Elevators and ailerons, the parts that control how the plane flies, responded slowly. A delay of just seconds, but in the air, that's all it takes. The root cause? Radiation, specifically a powerful solar flare, the strongest flare of 2025. It briefly pierced Earth's magnetic shield and interfered with the aircraft's internal systems. Now, radiation from the sun isn't new. Earth gets bombarded every day, but once in a solar cycle, roughly every 11 years, the activity peaks. And during those peaks, even well-shielded systems can glitch. This time, it hit the aircraft. Next time, it could be satellites, power grids, or even internet cables. That's how vulnerable modern infrastructure has become. For Airbus, the scare was short-lived. But the panic wasn't over yet. Because today, the company faced a different problem. Reports surfaced of a quality issue. This time, it wasn't radiation. It was a flaw in the metal fuselage panels on dozens of A320 aircraft. The issue has delayed deliveries. It hasn't affected aircraft already in service, but it was enough to spook investors. Shares of Airbus fell by as much as 10% before recovering slightly later in the day. In just 48 hours, Airbus was hit by 2 different crises, one cosmic, one corporate. Neither caused long-term damage, but together they've exposed something deeper, a vulnerability in global aviation, not in engineering, but in supply. Because today, the world depends on just 2 companies to build most of its planes: Airbus and Boeing. That's it. No third option, no backup plan. And that's the risk. When Boeing faltered with the 737 MAX, airlines turned to Airbus. Now, when Airbus has hit turbulence, there's nowhere else to go. And that's what these incidents have reminded us. It's about how fragile the aviation ecosystem really is. A single software glitch can ground thousands of planes. A missed weld can delay dozens of deliveries. And a solar flare can scramble flight computers mid-air. So while Airbus works to patch its software and fix its panels, the world is watching. Not because one company stumbled, but because everyone is flying on the same two wings, Airbus and Boeing. And if either one falters, the world's flight path gets shakier.
If you open social media today, doom scroll through Instagram, witness multiple X posts, or maybe even scroll through TikTok, there's a very big chance that something made you angry. Not annoyed, not irritated, I mean angry. And if it did, well, congratulations. You just encountered the Oxford Word of the Year, rage bait. It has beaten aura farming and biohack to win this title. But why this particular word? Why did the Oxford University Press select this word? Let's look into it. First of all, what is rage bait? What does the term actually mean? Well, here's a simple version. Rage bait is online content engineered, literally engineered to make you furious, not to make you informed or entertained, but angry enough to react. These are not accidents. These are carefully designed emotional traps, baits. The video of someone doing something so wrong it hurts. The post on X written to offend half the planet. The influencer who can't seem to believe that women have rights in 2025. The political meme that boils your blood. The strategy is simple. Anger equals engagement. Engagement equals money and reach. And this is not clickbait. Like content that triggers curiosity, that is clickbait, almost like the internet looking over your shoulder. Rage bait is the internet grabbing you by the collar and screaming in your face. So why did rage bait explode in 2025? It's because the internet has changed. A decade ago, platforms rewarded curiosity. 10 things doctors don't want you to know. Today, curiosity is old school. Emotion is king. And unfortunately, the cheapest emotion to produce is anger. According to Oxford, usage of the term surged threefold this year. Do you know why? Because from influencers to brands to even trolls, everyone has figured out the simplest rule of the internet. Make them mad and they will stay. Make them furious and they will share. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. According to researchers, humans are biologically tuned to react to danger, threat, or conflict. Our ancestors needed this. If someone was yelling in the bushes, you ran. Today, the bushes are your phone, and the danger is a guy making pizza with toothpaste. If you awe at a cat video, you just scroll to the next. But if you're furious about a stranger putting ketchup in biryani, you leave a paragraph-long comment, or maybe share it with your friends. So there's one kind of content that gets rewarded, and there's another that gets forgotten. And creators know this, platforms know this. Basically, we humans are wired to notice negative content. We are wired to remember it. And platforms are wired to reward it. In 2024 and 2025, this turned into a perfect storm. Global elections, misinformation, creator payout schemes, AI-generated content, a generation exhausted by but addicted to scrolling. We had all of it. And what was the result? A digital environment where rage is more valuable than reason. Last year's Oxford Word of the Year was brain rot. That's the result of endless scrolling. This year's winner is rage bait. Together they form a cycle. Rage sparks engagement, algorithms amplify it, users get overwhelmed, people start avoiding news. The internet becomes even more extreme. It's like a snake eating its own tail. And who is in the middle of all of this? It's us, you and me. We are tired, we are overstimulated, and still strangely unable to put the phone down. Our final story tonight is about your last meal, and the one before that, and the one that you'll probably order tomorrow. A new national report is out. It shows that India's dining habits are changing faster than ever. Sushi is no longer exotic. It's weekday dinner. Tacos are not a novelty anymore. They're a quick office lunch. And Korean fried chicken? Well, it's a college canteen staple. And this is not a Delhi or Mumbai trend. This is happening across the country. Young Indians are trying more cuisines. They're ordering more from restaurants. And global food is growing at a pace we've never seen before. Korean orders have exploded. So have Vietnamese and Mexican ones. Drinks like boba tea and matcha are competing with chai. But here's the real story. India is not abandoning its own flavors. It's only adding to the menu. Here's a report.
On Indian tables today, something unusual is happening. Meals look familiar, but the flavors are changing. Tuesday night, sushi. Thursday lunch, tacos. Friday dinner, maybe both with Chinese food. College canteens now serve Korean fried chicken. Office break rooms smell of ramen one day, butter chicken the next. These dishes are not replacing Indian food, they are joining it. They are expanding what an everyday Indian meal can look like. And they reveal a larger shift in how the country eats, explores, and experiments. Young diners are trying out new flavors. Restaurants are updating their menus. And delivery platforms are carrying dishes from every corner of the world. So what's driving this? Young Indians are seeing more global food through travel and social media. Rising disposable incomes allow more experimentation. And convenience? It's everything. Online delivery platforms make global dishes easier to access. Digital menus present options that didn't exist a few years ago. Vietnamese pho at midnight, Peruvian ceviche by the day. Together, these forces help explain why youngsters are trying more cuisines than before. A new national report measures this change. It says there is a 20% rise in the number of cuisines each customer orders. It also reports a 30% jump in the number of restaurants people try. And global cuisines, they're expanding the fastest. Orders for Korean food have grown 17 times in 5 years. Vietnamese dishes are up 6 times. Mexican food is up 3.7 times. Peruvian and Ethiopian cuisines have entered city menus. Dishes once seen as niche are becoming normal weekday options. Drinks show the same shift. Searches for boba tea have risen 11 times in 5 years. It's a chilled tea-based drink from Taiwan, made with tapioca pearls and flavored syrups. Meanwhile, search for matcha tea are also up 4 times. Matcha tea is a finely ground green tea powder from Japan. It's used in traditional tea ceremonies and modern cafe drinks. These choices are not just reshaping plates, they are reshaping the market behind them. The report says India's food services sector is entering a major expansion phase. It's expected to cross $125 billion by 2030. The organized sector is growing twice as fast as the unorganized one, and it will contribute about 1.9% to India's GDP. But here's the twist. This doesn't mean Indians are leaving their own cuisine behind. Regional flavors are also rising alongside global ones. Goan, Bihari, and Pahari dishes are growing 2 to 8 times faster than mainstream categories. Even traditional drinks like buttermilk are outpacing the broader beverage market. Put together, the numbers show a simple story. India is not choosing between global and local. It is choosing both. Indian diners are becoming more adventurous. They are mixing flavors, they are widening their palates. And they are building a food culture where biryani and sushi can live side by side.
Sunday was a big day in the world of cricket. India played South Africa in the first one-day match, and it took place in Ranchi, the home of former captain Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Now, ahead of the match, Dhoni hosted the Indian team at his house, and the next day, India's two superstars put on an awesome show. That's Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma. Immediately, social media was on fire, especially because India's coach Gautam Gambhir has had a testy relationship with Dhoni. Take a look at the meme fest that followed. Now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Pope Leo prays for peace in Lebanon. Thailand's Queen completes a half marathon alongside a two-time Olympic champion. And a football match was abandoned in Amsterdam after fireworks were launched in the stadium. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 2019, a man in China's Wuhan fell ill. The index case, or patient 0, reportedly experienced symptoms on the 1st of December. The first recognized cluster of Wuhan virus cases occurred in late December. By January 2020, the city was under lockdown, yet the Wuhan virus cases spread across the globe. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Mais nous savons bien. The countdown has begun. In 3 days from now, Vladimir Putin will arrive